Good morning. It's August 4th, and welcome to the Alan Osborne Show. I'm going to go over Friday night's event at Mossy Head. Now, I went to this event. I don't know why I went to it. I really went to it for the Mossy Head people so they could show up. And I knew it was going to be a thing where pretty much everybody who showed up there already knew who they were voting for, and you could see it. I got there early. We'll go around the room. And it tickled the shit out of me. You know what it reminded me of? If you look around this room and then go take some World War II pictures, it reminded me of pre-World War II when the Germans were standing around the Polish people in their uniforms, telling that they were there to help them out. Right for it. It looked like the Gestapo on the back wall. I laughed my ass off because I got there. Because what it is that's Mikey's paid political support team. And pretty much everybody that was there is either paid or their kids are paid or they're related to somebody who's being paid by the sheriff. So I guess they thought they were there to tell me and Aaron Murray that we couldn't win them over. Big deal. It was hilarious. Let me get into that. So at the end of this, right behind Teddy, you can't see him. He's down here in the white shirt with a pointer. It's Mike Atkinson. And then you had Boots. And some reason Shane Abbott doesn't have anybody run against him, but he was up there. I'm not sure what that was about. And you have Aaron Murray, Jonathan Roberts, Dan Curry, Trey Nick, Gary Greger, Barbara Morano, Phony Tony Anderson, and Chuck Wilder. I'm mad because they talk about my taxes, which I'll get into. That tickled the shit out of me too. So anyway, I got there early and I sat in the front row. While the sea of goons, I could hear them back there pointing at me and snickering like I cared. I'm not the one who's worried about my job and my boss's misbehavior. And some of you sworn officers, y'all should try swearing. You remember, you're sworn to the Constitution. And when your family see this, I want them to know that you've done wrong by not reporting what you see in that department. So, number one, that's who was there. And I've talked about the Gestapo of green shirts. Think about it. They surrounded the room like an intimidation, except for the ones that were too big to stand, mostly. So Mikey loves it. He don't go anywhere without his PR crew, but his stupid little PIO, she wasn't there, and we'll get into some stuff. Hey, PIO girl, how many DUIs did you get in college? And how many times have you left your vehicle unlocked and lost all your equipment? Is that one of the highest standards of your agency? But that'll be another show on Miss PIO. Woo, we're going to have one. Here's what wasn't asked. If you saw, let me see here. If you saw out there, get all this stuff I'm thinking about right. If you saw, trying to think who else was there. They had somebody there filming it and all that kind of stuff, which was good. And I'm trying to think what else here. Oh yeah, what wasn't asked? Well, Mark, the guy who made the video on the bridge asking Trey about the racist text, remember Trey said his text got hacked after the court said it wasn't. But he was there, and I watched him write a question for them to ask Trey Nick to explain the racist text, as Mr. Harmon just sat right in there. That's his leg right there. Mr. Harmon's already written his question. There was a lot of questions that weren't asked, and truthfully, I wish they'd asked me harder questions, as hard a question as anybody wanted, and then I wanted to ask some of Mike and some of the other candidates, but I didn't get to. And I'll get into some of even the commissioner's answers and tell you how jacked up they are. Okay. Questions that were asked of Alan Osborne and Aaron Murray, but not Mike. And it came from the deputies, and I saw it get passed up. Why are you qualified to be sheriff? Now, that was funny. That came from that sea of green shirts, because not a one of them on the wall has the education and number of training courses or experience that I have, and sure, Mike doesn't. So let's go into Mike's experience as your sheriff. Pretty much before he went to the Funiac Police Department, he has no record of ever supervising anybody that I'm aware of, and you can produce some, Mike, whatsoever. He was in a prison guard in Tallahassee. He had trouble making standards. I don't know, Mike. Why don't you tell us how you got here? But suddenly, when the Defuniak police chief got in trouble, Mike was appointed by somebody with the help of Graham Fountain, and he just poof became the chief of police of Defuniak Springs. So he became a appointed incumbent who really didn't have anybody to run against him in the next election. And then right after that, he ran for sheriff, and 60% of the people didn't vote for him, but he got the most in the primary. And so he became our sheriff on less than 3,000 votes. Now, every leadership opportunity that Mike has had has been to an appointed position or a position that he gave himself some opportunity by sitting in an elected position. None of it was based on merit, because once he got in the seat, he could have been an elected moron, sent himself to all kind of schools. You see my point? So it was kind of, he was over there grinning like the Cheshire Cat, Mike was, squinting out of one eye and winking at me. I was like, whatever, Mike. It won't matter. You'll never be able to go to the schools. And some of the schools that myself and even Murray have gone to, you just couldn't pass them, Mike. In fact, you couldn't go to some of the schools that I've gone to, since your officers are worried about it and some of your leadership's worried about it. They couldn't go either because they couldn't pass the entrance standards. You see what I mean? Anyway, so that's what wasn't asked. Mark's question about the racist text to Tony and Nick, that wasn't going to be asked. And, of course, Tony and them tried to make the beach an issue. Let's talk about what their answers were. They said, now look, I hope you people out there don't eat the bait on the beach issue, because Boots, Tony, and Trey signed that away. The settlement's over. It's over. But Tony's sitting there telling everybody that his beach fight isn't over, but at the same meeting, go watch the video, he professes that the lawyers told him he was going to lose. Now the question is, folks, why did they know they couldn't win that lawsuit and they still spent $4.5 million on it? And the answer is this. If they'd have known, if they'd announced before all that lawsuit that they couldn't win, then they would have had to do something about all the short-term rentals they were about to approve in South Walton that needed beach access. Now, this subject came up, and truthfully, none of the candidates gave a good answer. None of them. Because here's the answer, what are we going to do about the beach? The only honest answer was, we've got to buy it. Because when somebody holds the deed, we've got to buy it. What wasn't told to them is that sometimes Tony Anderson, Danny Glidewell, Boots, and Trey Nick were paying $4 million over appraised value. Now, who does that? Look, this one piece they bought down there from Peter Russell, I believe, down there, it wasn't buildable. They didn't have another buyer, and we still paid millions over what the appraisal was. Why? It wasn't going anywhere. We were going to end up, if we'd have gave them the appraised value, we'd been the highest cash bidder. But this was sold down the road, because here's how you fix the beach issue. We know, Tony says he can't he's not going to approve anything that meets the land development code, and he's done everything he could to put dirty people in place to change the land development code where nothing can be denied. Nothing, no matter what it does to your neighborhood, no matter what it does to your schools, no matter how hard it ruins infrastructure, according to Tony, it can't be disapproved. And that's why he's stuck over there like a troll. He looked like Biden, really. He's old, he's shuffling around, he's confused, he must be eating too much THC chocolate like he says he does. And he needed to answer about his ethics complaint, but he just wanted to talk about CU when he's the one that took it out of the commissioner's hands. See, CU is a lie, because I'm gonna make a whole show on the beach issue here in the next day or two, and I've been involved in it since the Land Development Code and the comp plan started out in 1996 when we had a comp plan. And I'll tell you why it's failed, but here's what the answer they should have stood up and said. The next and they could start the next meeting. Because if some of these people don't get in, if Tony and them aren't reelected, it'll be Katie bar the door till November on what they approve. Here's how you fix that. Now, I'm not defending Jay Odom or nothing, but when Jay brought Hammock Bay to Freeport, he brought room for ball fields, room for a Publix. He had a complete plan how to put the infrastructure needed for that kind of neighborhood out there and bring some of that. And truthfully, I would have made him bring more. But he brought more than anybody else. So, hey, catch a clue. Watch this. Commissioners, when somebody in South Walton brings any development that's not a minor to you, and it depends on short-term rentals, you just simply tell them this. We don't have the infrastructure, and we're not going to tell you that we're not going to approve it. We're going to approve it on the conditions that if you're short-term rental for the beach, you go buy a beach house and include that into your business model, tear it down and make some parking and beach access, because you can't, we already know we can't get what we have to the beach, and you don't have the right to overload it farther and then blame us for it. So bring us some room, buy some land in your development for a ball field or somewhere else, and buy us a beach lot. You know, that huge development there right there at the corner of 30A and 98 on the west end is where I'm talking about. That huge development, they should have had to buy some beach access. They're going to put thousands of homes in there when we know we don't have the schools, ball field, or beach access, and most of them are going to be trying to be rented as short-term rentals. Why is our commission so cannot understand? Because here's what's going on, people. This you can think that the big issue are in the room, but the issue in the room that you don't see, and I asked this question when I was stood up, what would you change? And I challenged every leadership person there in Mike Atkinson. I said, who's in charge of white-collar crime in the sheriff's department? And when's the last time they prosecuted one? Try never, that I'm aware of, in 16 years. I had a case where the state was ready to take an unlicensed contracting case to court, and the state attorney and Mike Atkinson wouldn't take it. They didn't want to turn over to the local investigator for it. See, we can think that one of the biggest problems is just dope in the streets and how to get our kids trained up. But one of the elephants in the room is the cost long term by not holding developers accountable for breaking the law, like cleaning up the bay. The commissioners have proof that people are not meeting the legal standards of the bay, yet they're allowing them to get away with it. And every time this commission approves a large development order that doesn't have ball fields or don't have a school system, and the school board and the sheriff don't talk to the BCC about planning, they admitted that this past year. They've been, in 16 years, it took Mike 15 years to walk up to the podium and realize that his department was tied to what the BCC was doing. That right there was an epic failure, total epic failure. He didn't want to be because Mike's getting all his money from developers and lawyers. And these white-collar crimes of environmental crimes and bank fraud crimes, because stuff doesn't meet ordinances and Matt Carpenter's giving them letters of compliance, Mike won't investigate that, and those long-term costs are going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars to put in the infrastructure and clean up the bay just by people who can't be prosecuted now. And why aren't they prosecuted now? Or why aren't they made to put it into their business model by the commissioners? Because then the people like John King and all them brokers, that sorry realtor that Danny and them put up there, they couldn't make these dirty deals knowing that they'll get these land changes approved most of the time. And they'll get what they want and make a fortune without doing anything to help us with infrastructure. That mobility plan fee, that's pie in the sky. There's no more land to buy for a wider road on US 98. We all know it. We're out of land. There's no more room on Mac Bayou, and it's probably at 4,000% of its capacity, yet the commissioners will say there ain't nothing we can do about it. Sure there is. How about enforcing the ordinances and the law? Yet didn't nobody have anything to say when the questions were answered, and old Mikey turned beet red. Beet red. And I tell you, some of the people that weren't part of the Mikey Gestapo on the back wall, you'll see the candidates stand up and answer the people's questions, except for Mike, until some guy called him a POS, that he didn't care enough to even stand up. Let me tell you something. Mike doesn't want a real debate, and there hasn't been a debate over the sheriff's office, because I've got plenty of papers I'd love to discuss. Like you watched yesterday's show, that ought to tell you something. But Mike doesn't investigate white-collar crime. And Mike was a big reason that CU is an issue. Have you noticed that Okaloosa and Bay County aren't having the CU issue? You know why? Because Tony and Trey and them need to make that an issue. It's like screaming squirrel, and all the dogs look the other way. It's not the real issue in the room. The lack of accountability. Think about it, in 16 years, the BCC has never ordered a forensic audit of the BCC and the Sheriff's Department. Hundreds of millions of dollars, and nobody's checking the sheriff. Literally, he's over $100 million in the past few years, hundreds of millions of dollars, and nobody wants to see if we're doing things right. Now, I worked for the government for years, and I rarely went 2 years without the Inspector General taking a fine-tooth comb to my hind end on everything I was signed for, my payroll, my budgets, my ammunition, and my high-dollar value items that I was responsible for on behalf of the people. The biggest problem you see around this room is a lack of veterans involved in government. I only think there was one green shirt wearer that works for the Sheriff's Department that's a veteran. I don't see any minorities and no veterans. I don't think that's a very broad swath of leadership, and it doesn't appear like a place when you look at the DNA of Mikey's cousin and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Something ain't right out there. And that, you know what I mean? They don't have an answer. I think they think we're stupid. It's kind of like this. This is what I see when I see Mikey, and Biden goes, I'm even smarter than that guy. You see that old stink eye he's putting on me? Guess what, Mike? I would debate you anywhere on anything about what you haven't done, Mike. And then Mike didn't even know what integrity was. He said integrity is what you do when people are looking. No, Mikey, it's what you do when they're not looking. And all this paperwork and these 60, 70 lawsuits and the sexual misconduct, and you don't read your own internal investigations. You hired somebody to run the jail 16 years unqualified and uncurrent and not a sworn officer. You put them in charge of sworn officers. You're paying your PIO and your special projects executive assistant secretary, Tammy Godwin, who went to Disney World on the sheriff's credit card, and then went to Walmart online. And what did she get for being the highest standards of the sheriff's department? Look at old Joe. Yeah, she got a hunter pass. You know what I'm saying? Mikey, what she get? She got employee of the quarter for misusing the credit cards, and employee of the year just so you could show everybody that, by gosh, whatever you said they were, that's what they are, no matter what they've done. You can't make this shit up on the Alan Osborne show, but you can unelect it. You can call bullshit on Tony. Mikey doesn't want to answer any questions, but he works for us. We need a sheriff, and we need commissioners that work for the Constitution and the people. And we don't have that here. If you're new to Walton County, please subscribe to this. And if you keep saying, let me see the documents, and you're new to my show, hell, I've been showing them in public and at the podium for over 400 meetings. I'm showing them. And if they're wrong, then sue me. If what I've said is slander, then go ahead and sue. But when a man reads a report with a guy with a repeated behavior of sexual harassment, and he promotes him, and then a woman steals from the department, and he promotes him, and then he fires other people for failing to make weight standards, and this man looks like this in the mirror, folks, it's a do as I say, and this is too much power for anybody. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and Mike doesn't think he answers to anybody. And I'm going to do a show where I prove that he ignores a judge's order because he's immune to prosecution, and I'll tell you why in those upcoming shows. But you can't make this up. But Mossy Head was great. And all you green Gestapo players, Audie Rao, you look sad back there. They all grinned when I came in, but they weren't grinning when I left, and not a one of them had the guts to ask me a question. Now, old Chuck Wilder stood up and said, Dr. Z didn't show up. Old Chuck Wilder stood up and said, I'm tired of people talking about my taxes. Well, it's me, Chuck, and I was sitting right next to you. Why didn't you tell me you were tired of it? You know why? Because what I would have told you, Mr. Driving a brand new Lincoln Aviator, but had to stand up and justify your payment plan to the IRS? No shit. Nice alligator boots, Chuck. I guess you got plenty of cash. Where's it coming from? All this cash Chuck has to fund his own campaigns, but he's on a payment plan with the IRS. Does that smell right? Hey, Chuck, did you... I'll get into that another day, but Chuck, it's me talking about your taxes. I was sitting right next to you, and if you'd have talked about it to me, you know what I said to you, Chuck? Stick it. Because remember when you accused me of being part of something I absolutely wasn't? And when I proved it to people with the paperwork, that I had a judge's order that said I didn't have shit to do with it. Old Chuck ran his mouth just on rumor, and he was wrong. So I'm running my mouth about the truth. Chuck's had 19 IRS liens. He's funded by developers. He's tied to the trash. He broke the ordinance when he showed up. He's never come to meetings. He's just full of crap. And that's why he's losing. That's right, Mikey. Your little pick, he's one of Mikey's vote of 3. We do not want to turn over hundreds of millions of dollars to Mike Atkinson, and Tony Anderson has basically no education, and he's in charge of our beach and listening to lawyers and developers. They are shooting the golden goose, and the property collapse is coming. He wanted to tell people in Mossy Head about affordable housing at the beach. That's not an issue. They don't know that. Hey, Tony, nobody believes there's affordable housing down by the beach because y'all haven't followed the comprehensive plan. You've had 3,000 or 4,000 exceptions to it. Let's see, anything else about Mossy Head? No. Chuck, go pay your taxes, Chuck. You said you were sick of hearing about it. Go pay them. You know, you're driving CVO Harleys and Lincoln Aviators and going to $2,000 concert things. And then he's get up and he goes, by gosh, I'll take care of my family first. Well, you could take care of your family like normal people and not drive an $80,000 car and not go to $2,000 concert tickets and just pay your bills off first. That's what normal people do. Your family is not starving, Chuck. You act like that they were starving at home and you ran home to cut on the lights. You could do with a little less toys, but you want to play the big shot with our tax dollars, and you couldn't control yours, and that's why you're not going to go into that office. Rightfully so. And that's the way it was on this good morning. Good Sunday morning to you. And next time on the Alan Osborne Show, we're going to go into this stuff hot and heavy, how the beach issue came about, what else Mike hasn't told you. Hey, Mike, make sure we find out how many times your PIO lost all her equipment for leaving her door unlocked. I guess she learned that from you when you left your door unlocked and lost your weapon. Do as I say, not as I do. Tony the Intimidator Soprano, Michael Atkinson, don't vote for him. Till next time, if you want change in Walton County in the primary, the answer is Murray, Drake, Marano, and Curry. That's how you get change. Just 4 votes. Y'all show up in August. A lot of people don't see this on social media. So if you got this on YouTube, take a link and send it out to your email chain and take some voters and stop this 100 years of DNA making decision for all of us that live in Walton County. We need the best people possible to manage our real estate and our lifetime investments and our quality of life. And this guy right here is a problem in it. And I hope we've demonstrated that in the show. So get rid of him and do something on August 20th. Go protect our Constitution. Vote for Trump and put these rhinos out of office. Till next time, I'm Alan Osborne.